Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. If you wouldn't mind, hit the like button before you leave today. That helps me out a great deal. I also love getting comments, so if you want to leave a comment after you watch the video, that'd be great too. Today I wanted to do some earrings, and I've been meaning to do this for a while. There's a million different variations of earrings that use discs, and so I'm going to make some disc earrings, 3 different variations today. And I thought that might be kind of fun, and I'll probably do a second episode of this one at some point if it's popular, so we'll see. One of them will have stones on it. I picked out some rhodochrosites for it, some little round rhodochrosites. And I'll be demonstrating how to use the disc cutter to do this today, so it's kind of a handy tool to have. Before we get started though, I wanted to thank my subscribers on YouTube. We passed 5,600 subscribers, which is amazing. You guys rock. I love your comments and suggestions and support. I appreciate all of the coffees you guys buy me occasionally. And of course the patrons are the other group that I want to thank. Over on Patreon, I have a group of people who've signed up for my premium content, and I really appreciate their support. They're kind of my bread and butter. They pay my monthly bills. So if you're interested in checking that out, that's a really nice group of people over there. You might find some great resources too. So thank you, patrons. All right, let's get started on these 3 projects. All right, here's my design idea book. These are available on my merch store if you're interested. I like them because they have sort of a graph paper in them. It's not really graph paper, but it's got the dots at the corner points where graph paper would have corners, and it allows me to draw things out more symmetrically. I'm not very good at freehanding symmetrical stuff, so it helps with that. Here's the 3 different designs. I think I'm going to ignore some of the little orientation lines I put in here. Really what it's going to be is I pre-made bezels for a couple of rhodochrosites, just to save time since we're doing three different projects. There. Okay, so that'll be in the center. I've cut some discs out of 22 gauge sheet, sterling sheet, and that'll go. I'm going to dome that and mount this on it, and then I'm going to create a ring that hangs around there with I think a piece of 20 gauge or 18 gauge wire, and then we'll add a loop at the top for an ear wire. And I'll texture this by hammering it with a peen on my, probably this little peen on the end of my chasing hammer. That's usually a good way to give it a nice texture. Second one, we're going to do these kind of things where it's just discs that are interlocking with each other. And I prototyped a little bit here. Make sure everything would work out. I got that one there, slotted already, and we'll use the saw to cut these slots. Remains to be seen how straight I cut them, but those fed together like that, so we get kind of a cool thing. And then we'll just put an ear wire up top like that. I think that'll make for some kind of fun earrings that catch the light really well. And then finally I'm going to do, maybe with some 14 gauge wire, I'm going to do a loop here with a loop at the top. And I'm going to take some smaller discs. I cut them earlier, some of them. And those are also 22 gauge, I think, if I remember right. By the way, this one was 18 gauge. These are 22. These ones are going to be 22. I just used a little more substantial metal for this one because these are going to be kind of big earrings. And these I'm going to texture those a little bit so they catch some light too. And I'll probably, before I finish, I'll tumble polish these a little bit, as well as doing some hand polishing. So, but let me show you how disc cutters work real quick. This is a standard kind of disc cutter, and they come with these little pins that fit these different holes. So you find the one that fits the right hole for you. This is just some 26 gauge I'm going to use here. Let's see. Put that one. Okay, so what it is, it's got a slot over here. You just feed your sheet through there. It's best if you can get it with one hit. I can't always. I use this old dead blow hammer. I usually do it on the floor because it shakes the table, but in fact, let's do that so it doesn't vibrate everything loose. We'll move over here for a second. See, it just pops out a nice little ring like that. Oops, I got the edge a little bit on that one, but that's the basic idea. So the other tool we're going to use for these first earrings, I said I was going to dome the inner part here. So I got these two pieces of 18 that I punched out earlier. By the way, if you don't get them with one shot and you don't line them up again for the second hit, you'll get little lines along the edge to show that you didn't have it quite centered. So I did these ones pretty well, I think. Not too bad. It did take me a couple of hits though. Okay, dapping block is handy if you want to dome something. I just want to put a little bit of a dome on this, so let's start with a big one. I'm just going to use my plastic hammer. I don't need to wail on these too hard. Probably could have drilled these first. I don't think it matters too much, but I'm going to have to drill a hole for them to hang from the outer ring. I can kind of just arbitrarily decide how much doming I want to do. If I want it to be a little bit steeper, go to a little bit smaller thing and hit it again. Set that to the side for now. Alright, so what I really need to do next is mount these little bezels on here. I think the trick on these ones is going to be getting them centered. So it's not much different than soldering bezel onto a flat piece of sheet. If you haven't ever seen one of my videos before, I use pretty much always hard silver sheet solder unless I absolutely can't avoid it. And a flux, that's a spray-on flux that I spray on with a bottle called My-T-Flux. Alright, first step, let's solder these guys on. I might have to adjust this after I spray some flux on here anyway because it tends to move things around a little bit. Let's see if everything's relatively centered. Just throw a few pieces in there. Now there's a lot more mass in a little piece of 18 gauge down here than there is in the bezel itself, so you got to focus most of the heat on the 18 gauge because the bezel will reach temperature very quickly on top here like that. seam all the way around, it looks like. In the meantime, while those are pickling for a bit, I'm going to use some, I think this is 12 gauge square wire, and I'm going to make this little ring that goes around here out of this. So I'm thinking I may have ended up with way too big of rings. I don't want them to be quite that big around. So I think I'm going to cut that shorter a little bit. That's a little bit closer to what I was looking for. Alright, let's solder this one, round it out, and see how it looks. It's always easier to cut another piece out if you don't like the length of it than it is to add another piece in. By the way, you'll see me pick soldering a lot in my videos. If you're interested in learning how to pick solder, it's one of those skills that really amps up your abilities. So I'd check out my video if you want to. I'll put a link right up there. It's worth learning how to do that. You just pick up a piece like that, heat this piece up until it reaches the soldering temperature. And then you get kind of a feel for, after a while, when that is, and you just touch it right here. It'll just fill right on there. Makes it easy to put a precise amount of solder in a very precise way, I guess. This may be too big for the mandrel, but if it is, I have a wooden mandrel that's a kind of in-between size that I made on the lathe. I guess this will still work. That's still pretty big. Although I think it might move freely nicely if we leave it that big. Alright, so I'm going to make the other ring and then we'll texture it. I think to start with, I'm going to hammer it flat because I want it to be flatter than this. I need it to be wide enough where I can drill a hole through it too, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time flattening it out first. Okay, now I'm just going to use the peen side . Okay, I think I need to make a little drill hole on here. So I'm going to drill a little hole in that. I'll be right back. Okay, you can see I drilled a little hole right in the edge there. I've broken most of my little tiny bits, so these ones are a little on the bigger side. They're 1.5 millimeters-ish. So I had to be careful not to get too close to either side, and I think I did okay. But now I need to drill the little discs that are in the pickle. I think next I'm going to solder a little loop on the top for the ear wire to attach to. And so I'm going to take some 18 gauge that I had laying around. This is about the size of 14 gauge wire, this brass rod. And we'll just kind of like wrap it around that to make some little tiny jump rings. If I want it to look a little more delicate. I'll set these off to the side for the moment. I want that to hang in the middle of that, I have to do about twice as much as that to make a. I'm probably going to have to make kind of a lozenge shaped ring so it hangs down low. And so I think I'll probably just do about that much doubled plus a little bit more. That's pretty close. Let's see if I line them up half this. Still pretty close. That's probably close enough. I'm going to go ahead and use those two. I got lucky on the first try that time. So I just need to pick solder a little piece here, piece here. I'll add the ear wires after these are all cleaned and polished and everything. If anybody knows why I was heating from the side like that when I was doing these ones, leave a comment in the comments, because there's a specific reason I was doing it, and I'll answer the why I did that in the comments if you'd like. So, all right, those are ready to go. So I'm going to pickle those and polish them and get them finely shaped, and then we'll set the stones at the end. So let's get those in the pickle, and we'll start the next set. So the next ones, let's do the ones with the 3 discs. So I think in order to get these pretty symmetrical, I'm going to tape these two together and use that as a guide to saw with. I kind of free-sawed the first ones just to get an idea how they would look. Hopefully that keeps it from moving too much. So let's go over to the sawing area. I think I have a 0 blade on here that I've been using. So I'll try and keep this along one side and then go right up the other side too. And I kind of eyeballed how thick this sheet metal is, and that's about how thick I made the notch. So let's do that on the other one, although you don't have to probably watch me do that on the other two. It's just the same thing, so I'll do that real quick. So I'm slotting these together like this. And I want to get them kind of in line, and then I think I'll probably push them into this magnesia block a little bit so that I can keep things relatively lined up. suppose if I need to, I can make some just little slight adjustments. But I think I got it pretty straight. Not too bad. Anyway. I could have done them one at a time, like each one of these joints one at a time, but kind of wanted to do them all at once. So this one came out a little bit wonky here, so I'm going to try and see if I can straighten him out. I turn it this way instead. Okay, we'll let those guys pickle. And we'll start to work on the third pair. I cut myself a whole bunch of these little ones. I think I did 9 because I wanted 8, but I wanted a spare in case I mess up, which I do. Okay, so we need to put a little hole in these ones too, though, because we're going to dangle them from something. Well, let's do what we normally do. Okay, we'll let those dry, and I'm going to center punch each of those. And then, in order to secure this down, I'm going to use the clamp on my bench pin. I just have a C-clamp with a piece of wood that I made a bench pin out of. Hopefully you can see that there. Just going to give it a little tap to put a dimple in there. Notice I don't use anything sophisticated for drilling here. Alright, so I'm just going to do that 7 more times. So I got those holes all drilled. Now I'm gonna hammer these a little bit to give them some a little additional light catching reflectivity. And one way to do this, keep them from running away from you when you're pounding on them, little things like this. Just tape them down a little bit. We can just kind of, you could leave these shiny, or you could run them through a rolling mill, or you could do a mixture, or you could make them different shapes. They wouldn't have to be discs per se. You could do ovals or something if you wanted to. But next thing I need to do is make some little rings for them. This is 20 gauge wire. I think that looks pretty good for what we're going to do. We're just going to be dangling them off of another wire, so that looks fine. So I'll make a bunch of those. I'm going to make kind of an oval shape. Probably make a circle first and then make it. Well, no, actually, I think I'll make it oval from the get-go. But I need some 14 gauge round wire. file these ends a little bit, just a little, to get them extra nice. I think for these ones I'm trying to face the texture all in one direction. For the top loop I'm going to use these little guys I used for the other ones. I've got a couple of these. So I'm going to solder these closed with a little bit more solder than I probably need, and then I'm going to use that solder joint to solder this one closed as well and connect it at the same time, hopefully without soldering any of those together. We'll see. Likely also pick up a little extra just to make sure. So I was going to make those ovals, but I kind of like the way they look with circles. So I'm just going to leave them as circles and throw them in the picture. And then when I come back, I'll show you all 3 different pairs. I apologize for my polishing hair, but here's our 3 finished products. Came out pretty nice. I like the way that looks. Here's the second ones. The only problem with these ones is it's hard to polish in between those 2 without creating a groove. And then finally, here's the little sparkly ones. Those ones get a lot of movement, so those will probably pick up the light nicely. Alright, I'll take some nicer pictures and put them at the end. Okay, that was Disc Earrings episode 1. I hope you enjoyed that. We'll maybe revisit this if you guys like it. Like I said, there's a lot of different variations we could do. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to hit the like button. That helps out a lot. So appreciate that. Leave a comment. And don't forget to check out the video description for the various relevant links. There's a Buy Me a Coffee link there. There's a way to get to my website so you can peruse my jewelry. There's a merch store if you need to get yourself one of these great design idea books, which are handy for drawing up your designs. And there's links and information about my Patreon if you're interested in checking that out. So thanks for watching. I appreciate you visiting. Take care. Happy silversmithing.